Hey guys, Kriben Govender from Nourish Me Organics. I'm going live to my Facebook group called the Gut Health Gurus and also going live to my Gut Health Gurus page. So I really wanted to make this video, and guys, if you're not joining in live, I'll repost this so you can actually watch the actual content. But what I really wanted to talk about today is the situation around the COVID-19, and it's something that I've been following for some time. Initially, I was admittedly a little bit dismissive, thinking that it's kind of going to blow over and we're not having to worry about it. But COVID-19 now has become quite prominent, clearly in the media and the way people are reacting. But hey guys, welcome to all the guys just joining in right now. So today I'm going to talk about my extreme anxiety that I'm feeling right now with the whole COVID-19 situation. So firstly, I haven't experienced digestive issues for years, but at the moment I'm feeling so anxious about what's happening is that I'm actually experiencing some digestive issues and digestive discomfort. And it highlights the point that it doesn't matter how much you do in terms of diet. Stress is such a massive driver of digestive health. So all the stress and anxiety around this COVID-19 for my family particularly is causing some digestive distress, and I'm having to work a lot harder in terms of my stress management practices. But today what I wanted to do is it's pretty much going to be a presentation type format. I want to talk about the current situation with COVID-19, the impact of stress, how gut health kind of fits into this whole picture, the importance of mitochondrial health, and then I'm going to give you some nutritional takeaways and some lifestyle takeaways to really help you and your family. And guys, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a medical expert by any stretch of the imagination. I've got a background in food science and also in microbiology. So I will speak to some really actionable tips on how you can actually protect your family as best you can. So firstly, let's explore what is COVID-19. So COVID-19 is a novel virus or viral pathogen that's impacting the world. And at the moment, in my lifetime, I've never seen anything like this. I think for most of us in our lifetime, it's unprecedented. And whilst the virus is not going to impact us, the vast majority of us substantially, it seems to be impacting those who are already sick, and also those who are perhaps a little bit older or immunosuppressed. So I've watched the story very carefully, and so it's gone to a point now where the virus has become a pandemic. So this means that it's spreading throughout the world. And my feeling is it is going to impact. Hey guys, my feeling is it's going to impact most of us. I'm just going to see some comments popping up. But yeah, so feel free to leave comments if you want me to tackle any particular information and if I can get to it. So it's becoming a pandemic, meaning that it's going to reach most of us. So it's going to reach most of us. And what the governments are trying to do at the moment is they're trying to, you'll hear this buzzword, flatten the curve. So rather than having a large volume of people getting infected with this virus and then creating a huge amount of burden to our healthcare system, they're trying to spread out the infections so that the healthcare system can much better cope with the stress of having an influx. And it does raise some really interesting social questions. Hey, Arthur. And so what it's going to do is it's going to create a huge amount of social and also some moral dilemmas in the healthcare system. So picture a scenario where the hospitals are full up and you've got potentially sick people with the COVID-19 virus, and then you've got a person that's coming in with a severe trauma at a, from a car accident or something like that, or someone that's got cancer that's in a critical condition. The sheer congestion to the healthcare system is what's going to be a massive issue. So I can see Stephanie Cutmore just left a comment. Thank you, Stephanie. I'm still unsure if I should be keeping my children at home from school. I can because I'm a stay-at-home mum. Let's see if I can do this. I'm not sure if people can actually see this. There we go. That's Stephanie's question. So I'll get to that in a second. So let me continue on. So the social and economic impacts are going to be the biggest problem that I'm potentially seeing. And what I'm doing as well is I'm trying to self-quarantine as much as I can, because what we don't want is the infection to spread and particularly start to impact the older parts of the population, because they are the ones, or it could be mums, expecting mums or children. It's like, it's just getting that sort of social distancing impact. Social distancing strategy to just isolate ourselves to essentially stop the rapid spread of the virus. So social distancing is very, very important. And to answer your question, Stephanie, I'm definitely keeping my kids at home. So all my kids are upstairs. We've pulled them out of school. We're just keeping that social distance, more so not for ourselves, because I think we're in that part of the population that's not going to be that severely impacted. It's merely to stop us from spreading the virus to potentially elderly people and immunosuppressed. So I'm doing that more so to protect others. But I'm not sure whether you saw my first part. I am extremely stressed. I think society as a whole at the moment is just, we're going through this social anxiety that's really impacting all of us, like, at a subconscious level, because we see things pop up on the news. Like, I looked on the news yesterday and someone got stabbed in one of the supermarkets. And then we see, people fighting over toilet paper and society slowly degrading down. And so it's so disappointing, because I think it's so important that we all band together and support each other and help each other through this, rather than being, self-centered and just thinking about our own families. Let's band together as a society and each do our part to help us get through this extremely challenging phase in humanity. It's really unprecedented. So that level of stress that I'm feeling, and this is for the first time that I've experienced digestive discomforts substantially for many, many years, and it's pretty much because of stress. I mean, it is so, it's the stress in my gut, it's just because I'm so worried about my family. And that's why I'm so stressed out, and it's definitely impacting my digestive health. So I really have to focus a lot more on the mindfulness and not stressing out, not being reactive, but really responding to these challenging situations. And I encourage all of you, and that's why I wanted to make this video, because we're all extremely stressed out. And I just wanted to give you some strategies, and which we'll go through in a sec, on how you can actually mitigate a lot of the risks of this COVID-19 virus. So stress management, so important. Spending time in mindfulness, whether you have a meditation practice. I think yoga would be, if you can do yoga at home, that's fantastic. But I think a lot of the yoga classes are going to be shutting down or limiting classes because of that social distancing policies and lockdowns and whatnot that we might be seeing coming pretty soon. And then moving on to the next point, which is gut health. Guys, remember, the gut is like 80% of your immune system. So all the things that I've been talking about for so long, so long about gut health is now more important than ever before, because just getting all the basics of gut health right is so important. So it's very, very simple. Eating really, it's good food, good water, and good air. Really simple, really simple. Eat clean as possible, minimally processed as much as you can, chemical free. All those basics are so important. I won't go into the gut health because I've been talking about gut health for many years, and you guys can go into my blog posts and podcasts and whatnot and have a look at all the information I put out on gut health. So the next point is, I just want to highlight just one particular thing which I think is so important, and that is the importance of milk kefir. So milk kefir is a really simple to easy to make product. I mean, it's so easy. You get some kefir grains and you make the kefir grains, you make the kefir at home. I mean, all you need is milk. It's like so easy to make at home. Kefir grains, milk, and you've got this beautiful immunomodulating capacity of kefir. And so you can screenshot and read this study in your own time. But just in layman's terms, kefir has all these functional peptides in there that actually, through studies now, studies are emerging. This is an older study. This is in 2005. But it just starts to demonstrate the ability of kefir to lower inflammation in the body. So what happens, and I'm not a medical expert by any means, but my understanding on how this virus actually impacts us is that it causes blood hemolysis and also an extreme immune reaction because the body is trying to kill the virus and get rid of it. So a lot of people are impacted by this term that you might start to see percolating. It's called a cytokine storm. Now, cytokines are just basically, in simple layman's terms, they are the way that the immune cells signal to each other. So your B cells, your T cells, your T helper cells, all these cells communicate. So they produce these cytokines that either raise inflammation or lower inflammation. So with kefir, it has the ability to actually, it's anti-inflammatory. So it has the ability to actually temper down the immune system and just dial it back a little bit. And that's the very basic layman's explanation of how kefir works. So just think viral impact, pathogen, bodies increasing oxidative stress, increasing this inflammation to actually knock out the virus, and then in severe cases with an immune system that's dysfunctional or immunosuppressed, you get this cytokine storm where the body just the inflammatory response is really out of control, and then the body starts to attack itself, and then you see all these lung type dysfunctions starting to happen. Certainly blood hemolysis, so blood cells being destroyed, and eventually, being short of breath, not being able to breathe, and then pneumonia. And this is the pathology of how this virus actually attacks us. So hopefully that gives you a bit of insight on why milk kefir is so important. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about was the importance of mitochondrial health. And you would have seen me post, like I really flog mitochondrial health to death, because in my view, from the science that I'm looking at, and I literally read like 5 papers a day. I'm very, very close to the literature and what's happening in the health space, especially now with this COVID-19 situation. So if you think of gut health, that sits here. So that's at the gut level. So the way science is evolving is we're going even deeper. We're going down to a mitochondrial level. So you think about the gut cells, the gut epithelial cells are the layer, the lining in the gut, very thin. Take a piece of hair, cut it in half. It's this thin layer. But within those gut cells are these organelles called mitochondria. And mitochondria are just little small little organelles, for want of a better word, that are inside all of these gut cells. And they're inside every cell in the body, aside from red blood cells, which don't have mitochondria. They use a different pathway to create energy. But the prime function of the mitochondria is to actually produce energy. So it's like the battery of the cell, but it has all these other amazing things. And what scientists now are discovering is that these little mitochondria are bacteria. So many, potentially billions of years ago, a cell swallowed up a bacteria. So it's an endosymbiotic bacteria, meaning that it lives inside the cell. And they've just become now part of the cell. So, but what's really important is they're the energy centers. So all those colonic cells in the gut and every single cell in the body is using mitochondria, or mitochondria is producing the energy. But why mitochondria are even substantially more important than just energy is they produce something called deuterium depleted water. Again, I'm not going to sidetrack too deeply down that. So that's one important point of mitochondria. And the second most important thing is scientists now have discovered they produce melatonin. So melatonin is the master antioxidant in the body. So as these mitochondria produce energy, they also create oxidative stress. So, and that oxidative stress in the form of hydrogen peroxide and all these other byproducts, reactive ROS or reactive oxygen species, the mitochondria have developed a system where they can produce melatonin, the sleep hormone, but also a master antioxidant to almost neutralize a lot of this ROS that's being produced in the energy production state. But how important is that? If they're producing melatonin, they're very, very substantial for sleep. And I've been struggling with sleep with all the stress. I've just noticed the quality of my sleep has been terrible because I'm just having this level of anxiety that's going on at the moment. So that's why I bang on about mitochondrial health, is because gut integrity and gut health is pretty much driven by mitochondria. So this is how it's the next layer deep. And why I'm having this particular discussion, talking about COVID-19, is I'm going to open up a couple of studies just to share with you. So again, I recommend you screenshot this and read it for yourself. So which one should we start with first? Okay, we'll start with this one here. So mitochondria and organelle, so this is pretty recent, 2018, mitochondria and organelle of bacterial origin controlling inflammation. So you can go and actually listen to my podcast with Roland Pankovic when we really go deep on mitochondria. And in very basic layman's terms, mitochondria are the very first part of the immune system. So I'll just read this quickly for you. So what's the important part here? Okay. This organelle of bacterial origin has not only been tolerated by immunity, but also has been placed as a central regulator of cell defense. In intact cells, mitochondria regulate cell responses to critical immune response engagement. So basically what this is saying is that mitochondria are signaling to your immune system. So they're actually activating your immune cells. They are the danger. So you can see here, it says here, where they act as danger signals when recognized by the innate immune receptors. So the innate immune system is just, it's like all your phagocytes. So they detect a pathogen, they just go to it and swallow it up and get rid of it from the body. And then you have the adaptive immune system, which is your B cells and T cells and all these other type of adaptive cells that produce antibodies and whatnot. But this is the signaling system. Because it is a bacteria, it signals out. So they've got these systems called PAMPs and DAMPs. Essentially, they're pattern recognition systems. So they are the sensors sitting in the gut and all the cells, and they're sensing out danger. And then they are activating the immune system. And this is why it is so important for you to maintain very good mitochondrial health. And there's lots of things you can do to maintain mitochondrial health. I mean, there's things like boosting up your vitamin C. There's all the getting sunlight exposure, red light therapy, deuterium depleted water. Basically anything that helps these little bacteria that inside the cell to thrive and perform at their optimum will potentially result in a much more robust and stronger immune system, because you want these guys, the sensors, to actually be working adequately and efficiently. All right, where are we here? So now one of the most important aspects, I'm going to get to some nutritional advice in a sec and talk about some more cutting edge science, but one of the easiest ways to modulate mitochondrial health is it's a concept called rhythmicity, or you hear something along the lines of circadian rhythms and whatnot. And that's pretty much just getting our bodies and all our cells lined up with the sun. And this is one of the most fundamental parts of improving your mitochondrial health, is basically just lining all the body and the body's clocks. So there's a clock in the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is the master clock in the body, and then that signals to all the other cells in the body, but it also signals to the microbiome. So having this clock system working properly is so important. And the easiest way to get this system working properly and optimally is to wake up in the morning and literally spend a little bit of time in the sun. And so when the sunlight hits the eyes, there's these compounds in the eyes and the skin called melanopsin. And these are the ones that are signaling or detecting light. So they detect blue light. And so from the blue light from the actual sun coming to our bodies, then this regulates all the secretion of the different hormones in the body. But one of the most important things I've discovered through my research is it actually modulates the gut microbiome. So I'm going to share this with you guys. Okay, there's a couple of studies here. This is an amazing study. This is very recent. I think it's only came out a couple of months ago. When rhythms meet the blues, circadian interaction between the microbiota gut-brain axis. So I'll very quickly summarize this. So what's happening, you can see in this diagram the suprachiasmatic nucleus. So it says rhythmic suprachiasmatic nucleus firing and melatonin synthesis. So how does the body know what time it is? Again, I mentioned sunlight. So sunlight hitting the eyes in the morning is a signal to say, that's awesome, Lyndall. This is Lyndall's comment. Let's see if I can bring this across. There we go. That's for Lyndall. So what's happening here is when the sun hits the eyes, it gives the cue to what time it is. And then that secretes cortisol. So this is the enzyme to wake you up and get you going and whatnot. But the most important part of this story is that it signals when the body is going to produce melatonin. And what the science is suggesting is that if you get that sunlight exposure, say at 7:30, that means that melatonin secretion is going to happen roughly 12 hours later. So at around 7:30 p.m. is when the body is going to start to secrete melatonin. But it needs that sunlight exposure to actually work properly. And guys, you'll feel this. Like if you're jet lagged, you feel terrible because, again, all these hormonal systems, the gut microbiome, it's all out of whack. So that's a good indication. There's also a concept called social jet lag. So when you go to work every day, there's almost, well, at the moment it might be different. You might be working from home, but in normal circumstances, you wake up at the same time to go to work. You normally have a very similar schedule of what time you have lunch. So it creates rhythmicity. So you're doing things almost at a very similar time every day. But then you get to the weekend, and then some younger people might, end up going enjoying the nightlife and whatnot, and sleeping very late at night, or maybe you sleep in a bit longer on the weekend. And again, this creates something called social jet lag, and this is when it's very similar to jet lag, but because your regular schedule is out of whack, the hormone secretions now are out of whack, the gut microbiome is out of whack as well. So how does this mechanism of rhythmicity or circadian rhythm actually modulate the gut microbiome? So you can go and read this study in your own time, but basically it's happening via the immune system. So you can see here, you can see in the actual diagram, you can see a B cell, you can see dendritic cells, and you can see cytokines. So what's happening is our own innate immune system and adaptive immune system has the ability to go and potentially kill some certain types of bacteria. So this is the way the body, and this is what the study is suggesting, is the way the body actually modulates the gut microbiome based on circadian rhythms. It's via the activation of these immune cells through almost epigenetic pathways that then the body actually goes and kills off certain types of bacteria and modulates it to a certain way. And this is what we call in microbiology a steady state. So it's trying to maintain homeostasis. So hopefully that makes sense. So this is why, it's all linked. Mitochondrial health, gut health, the gut microbiome, they're all linked because, again, what is actually controlling those immune cells? It's the mitochondria. The mitochondria are the conduit between the genes or the nuclear genome. The mitochondrial genome is totally separate, and it's the bridge between the body and the microbiome. So hopefully that makes sense on why I think mitochondrial health will be one of the most important revelations in science coming up in the next few years. So really important to maintain healthy mitochondria. Apologies. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. Now, where do we go next? Nutrition advice. Okay. So again, basic nutrition advice is, guys, eat super, super clean. Like, this is more important than ever before to really avoid processed foods like the plague. I mean, processed foods are highly likely to be high in sugar, and sugar is one of the most damaging compounds to your immune system. Very, very impactful on the immune system. Then in terms of your basic vitamin requirements, and a couple of these are actually hormones. So the first one is vitamin C. So make sure you're getting adequate levels of vitamin C. So vitamin C can be through berries, it can be through things like camu, which is amazing, kakadu plum, all the citrus fruits, broccoli, all these things have substantial amounts of vitamin C content. The next one is vitamin A, which is, again, you don't want too much of it, but a nice way to get vitamin A and D, which we'll talk about D, both these are hormones. The best way to do it is through something like a cod liver oil. So cod liver oil is vitamin A, or for people that are plant-based, something like carrots. So you can Google on and find out exactly what the best sources of vitamin C, vitamin A are. Vitamin D, the best way to get vitamin D is sunlight exposure. Now, there's a great app that you can download. It's called D, and it's D Minder. So what it does is it geolocates you wherever in the world you are, and then it gives you rough approximations of how much, firstly, when to go outside, because vitamin D production is all based on the sun hitting your skin, but it has to be at a certain angle. So the time of day really matters. So this D Minder app will tell you when to go outside and then you can set it on the app and work out. You can actually target how much vitamin D you want to produce. So D3 is the important one, cholecalciferol. So, and then just spend some time outside, press the app. So if you target 3,000 IU or 2,000 or whatever it is, press start on the app and it'll tell you roughly how long to stay outside. It's very easy. It's very easy to get vitamin D in summer, but Heather's raised a good point here. When it's not sunny, what do? So something like cod liver oil is great. So it's very pure, very natural. That's the second best thing. If you can't get sunlight, using something like cod liver oil or beef livers or some sort of offal is going to be a good way to get your vitamin D up. But ultimately, the sunlight, the D-Minder, use the D-Minder app, spend some time in the sun. You don't need a huge amount of time. It's literally a couple of minutes, 5 minutes. So it's not going to create any risk in terms of damage to your skin from the sun, or if you're worried about cancers and things like that. It's very, very minimal exposure, especially if you're getting the exposure early in the morning to offset then getting the exposures around that midday time. So it's almost, waking up with the sun. Cod liver pills are absolutely fine. Heather? Yep, and then this is Lyndall's question here. Look, if you're going to take a supplement, just make sure it's cholecalciferol D3, which is going to be your best option. But for everyone else, get out in the sun. And I'm going to share this study with you guys. Okay. So this highlights why I think it's so important to actually get out in the sun. So you can see in this study, relationship between vitamin D, gut microbiome, and systematic autoimmunity. So I'll just very quickly read this blurb. There is increasing recognition of the role the microbiome plays in the state of health and disease. Microbiome studies in systematic autoimmune diseases demonstrates unique microbial patterns in inflammatory bowel disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and systematic lupus, blah, blah, blah. Where there is no single bug or pattern that characterizes multiple sclerosis, autoimmune diseases tend to share a predisposition for vitamin D deficiency, which alters the microbiome and the integrity of the gut epithelium barrier. Guys, how important is that? You want the science. In this review, we summarize the influence of intestinal bacteria on the immune system, explore the microbial patterns that have emerged from the studies on autoimmune diseases, and discuss how vitamin D deficiency may contribute to autoimmunity. What is COVID-19? COVID-19 is autoimmunity. It is the cytokine storm, an immune system that is out of control. Guys, it is free. Sunlight is free. That is like the most amazing thing that you can do is actually go out and spend time in the sun. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense and why I'm saying sunlight is so important for your vitamin D. So use the D-Minder app. Spend some time in the sun in the morning, midday, get some sun exposure. I literally force my children, it's practically verging on child abuse, to get out in the sun in the morning. And I literally get them to take their shirts off and get in the sun and shine sunlight in the morning, get sunlight in their eyes. Midday, I get them out. We literally have our lunch out in the sun, shirts off to get maximum exposure. Especially being darker skinned as well, it's a lot harder for us to absorb vitamin D. So we need a little bit more. So, and finally, the next important thing for viruses is zinc. So zinc is pretty well known how important it is to get zinc. And the other one is omega-3 fatty acids. So the best way to get zinc, I think, for my family is zinc and omega-3 is oysters. We eat tons and tons of oysters. So minimum 2 dozen oysters per week for my family. Tons and tons of zinc, which is antiviral, and also omega-3s, which is absolutely important for gut function, the immune system, all that jazz. Okay. Right, there's one watch out. There's one watch out. Not many people know about the impact of vitamin C, or the detrimental impact of vitamin C in high levels in certain parts of the population. So a lot of information that's coming out on the internet at the moment is top up on vitamin C, top up on vitamin C. Vitamin C is the panacea. Vitamin C is going to save the world. Vitamin C is used in China to knock out COVID-19. Blah, 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 blah. Vitamin C is not for everyone. So I just wanted to highlight this point. In certain parts of the population, and it's actually a fairly high part of the population, that they have a polymorphism. A polymorphism is just it's almost an adaptation in a gene. So, and this is my problem. This is why it's so important to me, because I have this particular polymorphism, and it's called glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency. This is extremely, extremely common. It is the most, from my belief, I think it's the most common gene polymorphism that impacts millions of people. And it's a defense mechanism against malaria. So a lot of people that are in the malaria zones have this polymorphism. So, if you're in really hot and tropical parts of the world, most likely you have this polymorphism. And the only way you can test for it is to get some sort of genetic test. I'm just about literally, because I've been thinking about how dangerous vitamin C is for my own clients in my nutrition practice. And I wanted to have a very quick diagnostic tool to work out whether people have G6PD deficiency. I'm actually just about to bring in some very cost-effective test kits. Literally, it's like almost a drop of blood, and then it tells you whether you've got G6PD. But why is G6PD so important? You can see this study. Effective high-dose vitamin C infusions, this is 2017, so not that long ago. Effective high doses vitamin C infusion in a glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficient patient. So vitamin C supplementation is generally regarded as benign. There has been a resurgence of interest in the general medical community regarding the use of vitamin C, most notably in the care of sepsis, which is pretty much multiple organ failure, bacteria and viruses in the blood, system-wide shutdown. Nonetheless, caution must be taken if, whatever this word is, supraphysiologically vitamin C supplementation is being administered, as it should be considered as a medication just like any other. We present a case of hemolysis. Hemolysis is literally the destruction of red blood cells. What happens with COVID-19? Destruction of red blood cells. What are the primary function of red blood cells? To shuttle around oxygen in the body. So you can start to see how dangerous this could potentially be with someone with a G6PD deficiency issue, and then being put on a high dose of vitamin C infusions. In this case, they were treating rheumatoid arthritis. But this is well before the whole COVID issue was happening. So that is just a watch out. So before we go out and dose ourselves with vast quantities of vitamin C, I very much am highly cognizant of having this G6PD deficiency to not go overboard in my vitamin C, and certainly sticking to food-based sources, sauerkraut, berries, citrus, broccoli, things like that. Far more safer for someone with G6PD. Yeah, so if you've got any questions, so Arthur, have you looked at quercetin? Not particularly. Is there anything that's burning, Arthur, that you want me that I'm missing in terms of quercetin? Yep. So, if there's no other questions, I'm just about ready to wrap this up. So again, in summary, we'll just very quickly summarize. Firstly, calm, help each other. We're going through a crisis. This is unprecedented. We haven't seen this, most of us, in our lifetimes. Help each other. Share your resources. Share your toilet paper. Fantastic time to start the GAPS diet, Stephanie. Absolutely amazing time to start the GAPS diet. Again, I haven't touched on all the 101 stuff. Yeah, this is Arthur's comment here. Quercetin to knock down cytokine storms. Definitely if it's having an anti-inflammatory response, why not? Just like the milk kefir, why not? If it's in the food source, I think quercetin is very high in capers. So capers is a nice food source. I tend to be more food-based in my approach rather than supplements. Yep, that's great. Stephanie, definitely start on your GAPS journey. 100%. Check out Quirky Cooking as well. Jo Whitten, lovely lady. She's got lots and lots of recipes and ideas for the GAPS diet. Stress, help each other. Taking up a mindfulness practice like meditation is amazing if you could. Gut Health 101. Yes, Heather. Oysters, cod liver oil, liver supplements, all so important. Offal, collagen, bone broths, all these things that can help the gut is going to bolster up your immune system, because 80% of the immune system is in the gut. Gut Health 101. Listen to the Gut Health Gurus podcast and just delve into the information on how to improve your gut health, because that's where you start. Start to learn quirky, Q-I-R, quirky cooking. Quirky cooking. Yeah, that's it. Stephanie's got it right. Quirky cooking. So check out Quirky Cooking. She's a lovely lady with all the recipe ideas. The GAPS book is amazing as well. So start to look after your mitochondria. Get your sunlight exposures in the morning, the middle of the day. Consider low deuterium water. Water. We've got this brand called Low D. Very cost effective. It's a nice way just to take pressure off the mitochondria, because deuterium is one of these substances that could be highly, highly damaging to the mitochondria. The way mitochondria work is they have literally an ATPase at the end of it's called the electron chain transport, and it's literally got a spinning engine. And deuterium is one of these compounds that can literally break these engines. So certainly look at anything involved in deuterium depletion. We've got a guide on the Nourish Me website. If you go to learn under Ultimate Guides, there's a guide on deuterium where you can learn all about deuterium and how to set some dietary strategies, red light therapy, all that kind of stuff to help with deuterium depletion, to help with mitochondria. The nutrition advice: C, A, D, and zinc. Vitamin C, the hormones. Vitamin A, vitamin D from the sun. Super important. And finally, no one is talking about rhythmicity. Rhythmicity is one of these things that really no one is talking about in terms of gut health. Everybody's flogging eat more fiber to death. But I'm with Cruz. I'm with Dr. Jack Cruz. I think the dietary impact on gut health and the microbiome is perhaps the easiest to measure. You take something, you eat food, you test the poop, and you can work out what's going on, what has it done. But things that are really hard to measure, like stress or sleep or sunlight exposure, these things are really hard to measure, And maybe there's a slight bias to thinking that diet is the only thing that's important. But I think equally as important is all your lifestyle practices, stress management, getting adequate amounts of sleep. And to me, the most important thing is sunlight exposure in the morning and at midday on your body and on your eyes. Because I showed you the studies, vitamin D from the sun literally could be modulating your gut microbiome, and it's free, absolutely free. And please, and please, guys, think about. And this is a really good point from Stephanie. Think about all the really vulnerable people in our society. People that are, expecting mums, children, elderly people. Before we run out and hoard food and buy up all the toilet paper, just think about how much we need. Think about maybe 2 weeks, and start being sensible just in case there's a lockdown. So just think about 2 weeks. There's no need to panic and stock your fridges full of food. Just think enough for 2 weeks. And toilet paper. At the end of the day, you can have a poo and go wash your bum in the shower. It's not the end of the world. But certainly think about the more vulnerable people in our society, and let's band together as a community and help each other as much as we can. So guys, that's my take on COVID-19. Hopefully you found some value out of it. Leave a message in the comments below if you want further explanation or links to studies and whatnot. But until next time, be safe, be merry, be prosperous, be well in this extremely stressful time. Let's band together and be mindful. Let's try not to react, and let's respond in kindness, gratitude, and love. Thank you so much, guys.